Are your standards too high? I hate this question because it really feels like there's no right answer. If you answer yes, then you just sound like a spoiled brat who wants what they don't deserve. But then if you answer no, then you just sound like the same spoiled brat who's delusional about what they deserve. So is there such a thing as standards being too high? Yes and no. No, in the sense that everyone should have standards for themselves, and we should all want to hold ourselves to a high standard. But yes, in the sense that we should be looking for people who apply the same level of standards that we apply to ourselves. So even though I hate this question, and most of us probably hate answering it, sometimes we have to bite the bullet and let our ego take a back seat. We hear all the time from people who are looking for relationships that they will not accept anything less than the highest standard of what they're looking for. A perfect example is i.e. the top 10%. Well, here's the reality. If we want someone in the top 10% of what we look for, we have to be in the top 10% of what they look for. And so on that note, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of standards are we looking for? Are you looking for the same kind as you, or are you looking for a different kind to you? Let me explain. Take a football team, for example. I know some of you out there like to call it soccer, but here in England, we call it football, so I'm saying football. In a football team, you have strikers, midfielders, defenders, and goalkeepers. Now, you can have a striker and a goalkeeper of the same standard, but for different reasons. I mean, do we think the goalkeeper Manuel Neuer can score a free kick the way Lionel Messi does? I doubt it. But then do we think that Messi could save a penalty with the same power and agility that Neuer does? Probably not. They could play for the same team, but in different positions. So then, are you like that? Or are you more like doubles team in tennis? Take Serena and Venus Williams, for example. They bring the same kind of standards to the same team. Disclaimer, now what I'm about to say, not everyone is gonna like, I get it, but let's go real shallow and real simplistic for a sec. We see all the time average looking guys with absolutely gorgeous, stunning women, like Jonah Hill and his previous girlfriends. He's an average looking guy and they have all been absolute stunners. Now I know we would all usually look at this and think, he's definitely punching above his weight. Now, while that is definitely true appearance-wise, is it the same career-wise? I mean, because if we look at it career-wise, we could argue that the women were punching above their way. I mean, a couple weren't even half as successful as he was. See, this is an example where it depends on what we desire, whether someone is in our top 10% and vice versa. What he desires could be to have a very attractive woman. What she desires could be to have a very successfal man. So when we look at it that way, are either of them actually punching above their weight, or do they both meet each other's standards? Another example, take Dan Bilzerian. He is constantly surrounded by all these different attractive women. I mean, constantly. Now, do we think all those girls are there because he has a great capability to grow an amazing beard? To be fair, it's a pretty amazing beard. They're there because he's one of the best and most successful at what he does, which is gambling, right? How can someone be like consistently successful in gambling? Surely that just means you're luckier than an Irish leprechaun. Now let's flip it. Why do you think he invited them all there to be on his $50 million yacht? Do we think he invited them all there because they're all doctors and lawyers and just got a promotion to be the new CFO of Google? I mean, if they did, they'd probably be having their own yacht party. He's invited them there because they're very attractive women, probably the most attractive in his circles. Now, granted, I just gave a couple of very shallow examples, but the principle still applies. If we're being honest, many of us have been guilty of being a little bit too entitled. We think we deserve a lot without having to do the hard work or sacrifice that it takes to attain it. How can we expect to get a promotion at work when we've only been there for 9 months? How can we expect to land that lead role when we only graduated from drama school 2 years ago? How can we expect to date the top 10% of what we desire when we're not in the top 10% of what they desire? Now, all of that being said, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have high standards for the people that you date, but it's important that whatever standards that we apply to them, we have to apply to ourselves. Now, here's the thing. I think, ironically, a lot of women's standards have become very high for the kind of guy that they want, but it's become very low for the kind of treatment they will accept from that kind of guy. So basically, out of maybe 50 or 100 guys, a lot of women today would only maybe date 1 to 2 to 3. But then it means because it's really hard for you to find that guy you really like, when you get and start getting involved with that guy that you really like, it can mean that you start to accept behaviors and tolerate things from him that you really shouldn't. Like for example, if you call him one day, he should call you back that same day, not a few days down the line or God forbid the following week. Or for example, if you guys go out because he asked you out, just the simple courtesy of him being a man and taking leadership and providing frame, maybe he picks you up, maybe he pays for the date. Those are things he should look to do, but then he doesn't. Or another thing, maybe perhaps you really enjoy being a great host for him. When he comes over, you offer him a drink, you make him food, you make sure he's looked after, you maybe offer him a treat, maybe you offer to give him a massage. You really enjoy hosting for him because you like him and you want it to work. But then when you visit him, you guys just chill in his bedroom all night. Well, the most common one that I see time and time again is that a girl is really interested in a guy. She's asking and inquiring about things in his life. She's trying to get to know him because she wants to invest in him. Yet the only time that he's interested in investing anything in her is when he is horny and he wants her to be sexually available to him. Outside of sex, he really doesn't offer anything else, but she is still available to him. This really showcases about how we should have standards in the right areas. Not just the ones that we fulfill ourselves, but also the ones that matter in having a healthy reciprocal relationship. And if you don't know if you have standards in the right areas, ask yourself this question. Out of the top 5 things that you look for in a guy, how many of them tell you how good and healthy the relationship would be? Just a thought. If you're ready to attract a great guy into your life, then enroll in my Claim Your Man program below, where I show you how to do exactly that. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep it slick.